Next, I'd like to introduce to you another extraordinary person. In fact, today's keynote was the National MBE Manufacturer Summit's first Legacy Award winner. Joseph B. Anderson Jr. is chairman and CEO and major owner of TAG Holdings, LLC, which owns several manufacturing, service, and technology-based companies currently based in North America. Over the course of its history, TAG Holdings has engaged in 15 acquisitions and joint ventures located in North America, Korea, and China. These businesses have served a variety of industries, including automotive, heavy equipment, aerospace, and defense. There is so much to say about Mr. Joe Anderson. He is a graduate of West Point, has an illustrious military career where he served in Vietnam. Joe and the infantry platoon he commanded in Vietnam were subjects of the highly acclaimed documentary film, The Anderson Platoon. This documentary has been shown in more than 20 countries and has won several awards, including an Emmy and an Oscar. Joe launched his career at General Motors, where he rose to general director of the body hardware business unit, which had 7,000 employees and revenue of over $1 billion. After 13 years, he left General Motors to become president and CEO of a privately held company, Composite Energy Management Systems. He later acquired controlling interest in another privately held entity, Shivas Products Limited, which manufactured interior trim products and lighting assemblies, principally for the automotive industry. So as you can see, Joe has been an acquisition guy for a long time. He is a past chairman of the U.S. Department of Commerce Manufacturing Council, has served on the boards of directors of several New York Stock Exchange companies, and is currently on a variety of boards, including the Business Leaders for Michigan and the Michigan Aerospace Manufacturers Association. Joe also serves as chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, the Detroit branch, among other community and business organizations. So I'd like to welcome you to our virtual stage, Mr. Joe Anderson. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you very much, Donna. And it's a pleasure to be back with you some 5 years after the recognition that you gave me at that very first event. I'm happy to continue with the effort of sharing what's going on in my world, which has continued to evolve. And as you title this particular conference, Future Forward, Disruption in a Time of Uncertainty, you could not have timed it and labeled it better. What I'd like to do is talk about those notions and then move forward into what you asked me to speak specifically about today. When we talk about future forward, the key term is forward in my view. Future is talking about things yet to happen, but forward talks about direction. Where are we going? What progress are we trying to make? What are the successful conclusions we are trying to reach? Now, if you focus on disruption, there's certainly no limit of that around these days. If you talk about the geopolitical uncertainties globally, obviously the COVID impact has made significant consequences in terms of labor availability and supply chain issues, to include chips, as we're all dealing with. But in addition to that, there are the social and cultural concerns that are front and center today as diversity and inclusion continue to develop and evolve. And then there's our everyday situation in domestic politics, where the role of government continues to be debated, as some will call it socialism, as the current administration tries to provide more services and support to everyday individuals. And of course, if you look and reflect on manufacturing, Industry 4.0 has continued to evolve. And so again, talking about future forward, those are the kinds of things that are going on with us every day. Now, you specifically asked me to talk about the courage to lead, innovate, and make change. And all of that reflects on the things that I've done since becoming an entrepreneur in 1994 and some 15 or so companies later, and with more on the horizon. I would like to make sure that everybody is on the same page with me when they talk about courage. As you heard about my Vietnam experience and the exploits there, you might think that's the courage I would raise first. Actually, it is not, because as a platoon leader and company commander in Vietnam in leadership positions and roles, my responsibility was to take care of the soldiers who were there, and that was my focus. And the things that I did in terms of calling in artillery, air support, those kinds of things that were not about courage, but about doing the job I had been trained to do. And that's certainly something that all of us can relate to in terms of our everyday efforts. Speaking further about innovation, that's a very specific notion related to change as I talk about it today. Change is something that is established, hopefully radical change that will make a difference going forward. And so my purpose today is just to talk about how those terms have made a difference and played out in my life, and very specifically, cause you to stop and think how they have made a difference and played out in your own lives. Because I found that those presentations that I hear that causes me to take away something for myself as a result of me reflecting on what the speaker said, but applying it to me has made the most difference. So let me give you a few examples of how that's occurred and made a difference in my life. For example, when I made the decision to go to West Point, I did not have any background or military in the military and so forth. I thought the Army Navy game was between the United States Army and the United States Navy. But with more information and insight about what the academy was, the education what I get that I would get there, I made the decision to go. When I entered the academy, on the other hand, it was a very different environment from which I had evolved in terms of my background in Topeka, Kansas. Most of you have heard about the Supreme Court decision, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. That is my class. And so when I graduated from grade school, I was graduating from an all segregated school environment. The courage to step into a junior high environment that was integrated, to take on challenges there, to lead, to play sports, to become president of my senior class in the ninth grade. Those are the kinds of challenges that one takes on and can lead and make a difference wherever you are, whatever you engage in. When I graduated from West Point, I chose the infantry. Why I chose the infantry is that I like people. I like leading people. And so that decision followed me on into my experience in General Motors. And so when I joined General Motors, I went into manufacturing, again, with the notion of being involved and engaged with people. And then when I moved from executive in General Motors to owning and operating my own companies, they were manufacturing companies, continuing that continuity of people, people, people. And so when young people come to me and say, well, how do you make a decision? What guides you in what you do? My response to them is, who are you? What makes a difference for you? What guides and leads you? And that's the kind of focus and effort that will impact what you do going forward. Now, in the people business, there are certain factors and elements that make a difference for me every day. First among those is communications. As I interact with my executive team, talk to them about my vision for the future, encourage them to contribute their thoughts and insights as to what's going on around us. That two-way communication makes all the difference in the world. Besides what's going on in my individual companies internally, I also look for and engage in relationships external to my businesses. And so understanding the environment in which my businesses are operating, being engaged with organizations like the Business Leaders for Michigan and or the Federal Reserve Bank, which I chair here, those relationships and activities are fundamental to what happens. Then as you build bigger organizations, you certainly want to develop teams. And those teams are fundamental and critical to the organization being effective because you personally cannot be involved and on top of everything that goes on. But what people are looking for most in you is to talk about behaving and thinking like a leader. West Point is, I consider one of the greatest innovative institutions for leadership training and development in the United States and around the world. And taking that leadership development experience and the training that I had there helped me go a long way toward the kinds of things and what I do to apply it every day. And so taking that leadership and transforming that into innovation, back to our subject matter today, that innovation is about transformational leadership. We want to innovate and make things happen differently than we had known them in the past. And so being very aggressive about doing radical changes and innovation is what I am very excited to take on whenever the opportunity presents itself. And then with that innovation and change, you can hope to direct your teams to be agile in their thinking so that the opportunities and innovation opportunities that are presented to them every day are fundamental to how they engage. Now, going back to where I started, what is the kind of difference that I hope to make? When I graduated from West Point, there were absolutely no Black general officers in the Army, and there were only 6 colonels. When I came to General Motors, myself and another Air Force 2-star general were the first Black executives in manufacturing and operations. When I bought my first company, there were only a dozen or so of us as major suppliers in the auto industry and so forth. And so, what innovation, what change do I see myself engaged in? When young people come to me and say, "Well, where are you and where are you going?" I talk about where we have been, but where we want to go. And in that context, I say many of us have had jobs. My father worked for the Santa Fe Railroad. He was a laborer there and went to work every day, 8 to 5. And he took care of his family and gave me the opportunity for a great education. When I got to General Motors, I moved into the executive ranks and was able to evolve and take on great experiences, create some wealth for myself in terms of salary and bonuses, but not move into a wealthy categorization. The challenge and opportunity for us as a Black community and a business community is to create wealth after having been through the stage of getting jobs, after having been through having executive positions and lifestyle. What about wealth creation? And so, as I've taken on that opportunity in the businesses that I've owned and operated, I have created the process of creating wealth for the individuals that work for me. And so, if you talk about the companies that I've owned and operated, I always put minority executives in place and give them the opportunity to acquire those businesses. And that's happened with 5 different companies that I've owned. And those individuals are now owning and operating those businesses and creating wealth for themselves. And so, again, innovation in terms of wealth creation is something that I took on and have been very comfortable that has made a difference. And if you talk about the individuals that have passed through TAG Holdings, my holding company, individuals like Billy Vickers, James Tolston, Poncho Hall, Anthony Jackson, Adam Clater, Alfonso Hall, those are all individuals that have worked in TAG Holdings and now are owning and operating their own businesses. And that's the whole process of being innovative about ownership and wealth creation in our community. So the point I would conclude with is that there are lots and lots of opportunities for us to make a difference. You need to understand, as I did, what makes a difference about what I am focused on. I like people, I like leading people, I like creating business opportunities for myself and for others. And in doing that, it has been very effective and successful for all the things that I would want you to take away in terms of how you have evolved in your own environment. Think back on what's made a difference for you, and it'll make all the difference in the world for those around you. I'd like to close with a quotation that I think says a lot about how to proceed and who we are. I quote as follows: average leaders raise the bar on themselves. Good leaders raise the bar for others. Great leaders inspire others to raise their own bar. Let me say that last part again. Great leaders inspire others to raise their own bar. So Billy Vickers, who you'll hear from on Thursday, James Tolson, Anthony Jackson, Al Hall, all of those gentlemen are now in the process of raising their own bar. And that's what we should be about as we go about creating a future forward in this time of uncertainty. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to open it up for questions and see what some of your questions are, and we can talk about what makes a difference from you. The first question I have here is, what quality do you look for when hiring new employees, particularly when you think about that person's future as a potential executive or business owner? Very good question. Some of the things that I look for is what are their own experiences in the past that have shown that they are willing to show courage and show initiative and take actions and steps of their own. Have they done things that move the needle for themselves and or move the needle for others, therefore can plan to come into Tag Holdings and make a difference for us? And so as I hired some of these individuals, it wasn't their first work experience, but it was their work experience with me. And we had the opportunity to take on a number of initiatives and make a difference and grow Tag Holdings. And that's very, very important and something I look forward to in every business every individual that I look forward to hiring. Let's see what we have for our next question. Question is, do you think the youth of today have good opportunities? I absolutely do. And the reason I would make that point is that there are so many new and unique challenges and creative circumstances that did not exist in the past. And so, particularly for minorities in this time of innovation and change, it's a circumstance that lends itself to creating great wealth in the community and growing significant businesses. When I joined my first company, Shivas Products, it was a $50 million revenue business, but I didn't understand all the things that I've learned and grown to understand today. Now, as that company and others that I've owned have evolved and become even bigger and more successful, those challenges every day make all the difference in the world. So I think the youth of today being willing to show the courage, and again, courage is not about being willing to overcome fear. Courage is being willing to do innovative things, take on challenges, move in a new direction. Those are the kinds of things that I would think make all the difference in the world. Another question. How have you decided what projects will make a difference? I wish I could say to you that I had a rule of thumb that, applies to everything I've done. There are some basics that I apply. Number one, I try not to get involved in commodity kinds of circumstances because in a commodity environment, low price wins. And I don't want to be bidding against others where you're taken to the lowest common denominator. I have taken on a number of business opportunities where there are no other minority business enterprises, in that I've taken advantage of the desire and commitment in the business community to expand opportunities for minority businesses. One of my companies that I currently own that is called uh, Barron Industries. It does vacuum impregnation. Now, when I saw that company first, I had no idea what vacuum impregnation is. But as I looked into it and learned, I came to understand that when there are porosity in castings, for a company that is doing machining, they either have the choice of throwing the casting away when there's porosity or sending to me. And so when I bought that company in 2016, it was doing something that there were no other minorities in. It has continued to grow and is 4 times as big as it was just 4 or 5 years ago. So that those are the kinds of things that I look into and consider when I'm looking at what projects will that I take on that will make a difference. Next question. Oh, this is a difficult one. What is your formula for creating wealth? There is no formula besides hard work. But again, applying some of the same tools and skills that have gotten you to the point of success where you are operating a business or engaged in an executive role and so forth, so that you can take on more and more challenges and so forth. So I did that first company, and then another one presented itself, and another and another. Uh, when I bought a company in China and another in Korea, was there any rhyme or reason to that other than they were the opportunities that fit the opportunity and circumstance at the time, and I took them on and felt very good about them, etc. Have all my businesses been successful? Absolutely not. But enough have been successful that I continue to grow and create wealth for myself and for others. Let me see what the next question is. The question is, each time you decided to open a new business, what was the catalyst or inspiration to do this? As I'm looking at 2 companies now for my next opportunities, in both of those instances, they are companies that I have not done work in that area before. But very, very important in that is one of those companies I don't think any African American has ever done before. And so, to that end, I'm very excited about breaking another glass ceiling, creating circumstances that will lend itself to other minorities, other African Americans getting into activities and opportunities that has not been the case before. So what you're hearing me say is I get excited about challenges. I get excited about innovation. I get excited about breaking glass ceilings. I get excited about things that have never been done before, particularly in the minority community or Black community. Next question. What are your next challenges? That's a very good question. And I think taking on these business opportunities that currently exist are the challenges that I feel most excited about. Each new business is a new opportunity and a new challenge. And as those present themselves to me, I get excited, I get fully engaged, and more importantly, I try to identify the right people to put in place in operating those businesses for me day to day. And as I said to you before, they have the opportunity at the end of the day to take on those businesses and own and operate them themselves. If I have investors, I mean, it's got to be a fair value proposition for the value of the company. But at the end of the day, they can own and operate those companies. And that's more than enough to keep me going on to the next one and the next one and the next one. But I like those challenges and particularly doing things that haven't been done before. Next question. What advice would you give to a manufacturer still stuck in industry 1.0/2.0? Well, the first thing I would say to you is be the best manufacturer that you can be in 1.0/2.0. And that's about quality, cost, delivery, technology, that whatever is associated with that. And then identify what are the next horizons and opportunities related to what you do. And put a game plan in place, a strategy to move to that next area of opportunity for yourself, so that at no time can you say, well, I was stuck. And so you are where you are now, but there certainly is no reason why you have to stay there unless you allow yourself to stay there. And so the challenge and courage I would say is look for and take on that opportunity and initiative that would move you to the next level of engagement. Another question that has come up: how long will you continue to do what you're doing? And the answer to that question is as long as I can get up in the morning and do it. I enjoy what I do every single day. I have no notion of retiring, and there's still a lot of opportunity, innovation, challenges to take on, and that's what gets me up every day. And so I am looking forward to the next opportunity beyond the two that I've just talked about, and they keep coming. And so this is just a very creative and successful time to take on those kinds of initiatives. Let's see what else, another questions come up here. Question is, how can I better evaluate the risk in my business? I think there are several areas to engage in evaluating risks. Number one among those is, what's the situation in the market in which you're involved in? Is there a future for that market? And so as we move more and more toward electronic vehicles and so forth and so on, the gas-powered engines and those kinds of functions and activities are definitely going to be at risk. And so understand where the future is and how you can move in the right direction to be part of that future. I think that understanding the financial world around you and what resources and capital are available to help you grow that business is a circumstance that deserves your attention. And there's no shortage of capital and opportunities for growth in today's environment. So take on those opportunities and look for as much innovation and creativity and wealth creation as possible. How do you find employees and hire new team members? I have a search firm, an African American woman, that helps me identify a diverse slate of candidates whenever I am looking for new employees. And so at the time that I am out there and engaged and looking for employees, I make sure that that slate of candidates is diverse. And I have every commitment to make sure that, as was my case coming along when there were very few minorities, I don't want that to be the case going forward. And so I am very focused and committed on making sure that that pool of employees is diverse, and that they have a variety of backgrounds that can contribute to what they do and so forth. And so I would like to conclude by saying this has been a great opportunity. I would very much encourage you to enjoy the rest of the conference and so forth. And Donna, let me turn it back to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for those inspiring words. I took some notes. I'd just like to say to the group out there, innovation through wealth creation, wealth building was a major point. There are lots of opportunity to make a difference, but you have to decide what makes a difference to you. And then finally, great leaders inspire others to raise their own bar. So again, Joe, thank you so much for those inspiring words.